Hey, Zane Griggs here. I know you've heard me talk a lot about fasting, with intermittent fasting, with 24-hour, fast a couple times a week, or intermittent fasting daily, where you're going, 14 to 18 hours without eating, or maybe just eating fat, before you start taking any carbs or protein in. Great, great methods for weight loss and burning fat. But did you know there's actually a benefit to your brain as well? There's this guy, Mark Mattison. He's actually not just a guy, he's a PhD. He's a professor of neuroscience at Johns Hopkins, as well as I think he's a chief of the lab over at the National Institute of Aging and works for the National Institute of Health as well. So, brilliant guy, very busy, studies the brain and looks for ways to, help our brains, well, basically slow the aging process, prevent Alzheimer's, prevent dementia, ALS, these kind of brain disorders. And he looks for ways to help our brains, not age so quickly or not have the damage. And believe it or not, he's found that it's many of those ailments are related to metabolic disorders. Basically, they have to do with our energy systems and what we eat and how we metabolize certain types of fuel. Which is why they're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Is kind of related to some of the same metabolic functions and disorders that are related to type 2 diabetes. Excuse me, I tripped over that. Type 2 diabetes. So insulin, sugar, plaques being formed, inflammation, all these things lead to some of the brain disorders that we're all really want to avoid as we get older, and it seems to be affecting us as a society younger and younger. So let me distill down what he had. He did a great TED Talk at Johns Hopkins. You might want to look it up as Mark Mattison, Matteson. Okay, and some of what he found was a benefit from fasting. Okay, like I said, so basically going more than, let's define this a little bit. When you go more than 10 or 12 hours without eating, particularly without eating carbohydrate or protein, if you just add a little fat in there, that'd probably work. But more than 10 or 12 hours without eating, and quicker if you're exercising during that time. But you start depleting all of the glycogen in your liver, which is what you tend to burn and which supplies glycogen for your brain and your other organs when you're not eating, when your insulin's low or non-existent, not being secreted. And when it gets low, glycogen gets low or depleted, you start releasing ketones, which you've heard me talk about before. So ketones get released. They're these great forms of energy that we secrete naturally, and you can supplement. But the effect of this fasted state is actually very healing for our brain. It's almost like exercise for your brain. It has many of the same characteristics and healing properties that exercise does on your brain. So it's like creating a little bit of stress or a little bit of exercise that your brain adapts to and heals from and grows from, to the point that it actually improves the connections and the number of the growth of neurons and the connections between the neurons, as well as growing new nerve cells. Okay, and it actually increases the number of mitochondria in the nerve cells and in the brain cells. So mitochondria, if you remember from biology class way back when, that's the mighty mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So mitochondria is where energy is produced within the cell, and that happens all over our bodies. We have mitochondria in all our cells, and they create energy. They take the fat or the glucose, whatever it is, and they turn it into fuel. And so this fasting like this, actually creates more mitochondria all over our bodies, but he's saying the brain. So he's saying even in the brain, you're creating more mitochondria within those nerve cells, so you have more energy. They're gonna function better. They're gonna function more, like they're young, right? And the other thing he found is that it actually improves or heals DNA. So you get improved DNA expression or repairs DNA. You may know that we get certain gene expressions or certain genes that we have that might be dormant, but in response to certain lifestyle choices like smoking or the way we eat, or maybe some sort of pollution factor, something happens, there's some kind of trauma, something that creates inflammation, we may express a gene that we don't particularly want that might cause a problem down the road, okay, and create damage to our DNA. And this sort of stress and repair that's created through fasting actually helps repair our DNA as well. So great stuff. Those are just kind of the high points from his TED Talk. But so you may want to check it out again. Mark Mattesson, Matteson. Google his name with fasting, and you'll find some great stuff. I've been following him for a couple of years, and because he's been doing this research for a long time, with primarily with the benefits of fasting on brain health. So check them out. Hey, if you found value from this, I'd appreciate it, if you haven't already, to like my page, and feel free to share it with someone else who you feel might also be concerned about how they're aging and their brain health. Talk to you later.